What do these two Major League Baseball teams have in common? Well, other than them being perennial losers, it's that they both have owners that don't care whatsoever about the sport of baseball. Bob Nutting and Dick Monfort have to be the two worst owners in baseball, and things aren't seeming like they're going to change anytime soon. Especially with rumors coming out about the Pirates maybe already looking to trade Paul Skeens, who's a top 5 pitcher in Major League Baseball. The Pirates haven't made the playoffs in 10 years, and the Rockies haven't made it since 2018. These two teams are just going to continue losing every single year until their owners are out of the organizations that they are currently in. But let's just talk about it. I'm gonna start with the Pirates because I think the Pirates are by far the worst ran organization in all of sports, especially by ownership, and it's just not even remotely close. I just wanted to start out with the Gerrit Cole trade because I'm thinking about the Paul Skeens trade, and the last time the Pirates had an ace in Gerrit Cole, they traded him and they weren't even able to get a top 100 prospect. So I don't trust at all that the Pirates would even be able to get the haul that they should for Paul Skeens. They traded Cole to the Astros, who had Kyle Tucker in the farm at the time. They didn't get him, or Forrest Whitley, who was also a top 25 prospect. Their best player that they got in that deal was Joe Musgrove, and he wasn't very good with the Astros, but the Pirates wanted him, and they did turn him into a pretty good player, and now he's a great player with the Padres. However, the two prospects that they got, the one that played the most was Colin Moran, and that guy just wasn't good at baseball. They traded one of their best pitchers in franchise history for nothing, really. But that's the Pirates' way. You know that that's how they're gonna do these things. They're gonna make trades, and they're gonna be awful. Again, that's why I'm afraid of them trading Paul Skeens. They're probably not gonna do it right. They do nothing right. Or remember when they wanted an ace? They needed a new pitcher because they traded away Gerrit Cole and then they didn't retain Joe Musgrove. So they needed a new, really good pitcher. So they went after Rays starter Chris Archer, and they traded Tyler Glasnow, who we all know is now a great pitcher when he's healthy, Austin Meadows, who had a season or two where he was one of the best hitters in baseball, and Shane Baz, who's now looking like he could be a potential middle of the rotation type arm for the Rays. I guess this is a general manager issue, but the fact that it's happened twice so recently where they traded Gerrit Cole and got basically nothing in return, and then they traded for an ace and gave up 3 actual good players, and Chris Archer was awful for the Pirates. I don't know, clearly ownership is part of this issue, and he's been here since 2007, so he was definitely signing off on these trades. Unless he doesn't have any insight at all and knows nothing about players, which is potentially worse than signing off on these bad deals. I would rather the owner know the players that he's talking about than not know anything whatsoever, but with Bob Nutting, he might not know anything, or maybe he thinks he knows stuff and doesn't know anything anyway. Who knows? This year, they took down a Roberto Clemente number on their Roberto Clemente 21-foot wall and replaced it with an alcoholic beverage advertisement. That just kind of sums up the state of the Pittsburgh Pirates. You're going to disrespect your franchise's best player who died while he was currently playing for your organization just to make a few extra pennies on an advertisement on his specific wall. Disgusting act. Paul Skeens, either right before the season started or the first week of the season, I can't remember exactly, he called out the ownership, saying that the fans in Pittsburgh deserve better and that he didn't want to keep re-watching the 2015 wildcard highlights, which was the last time they made the postseason. Kind of crazy that that's the only thing that Paul Skeens can watch basically within his entire conscious life to be like, hey, no, this organization can be good. Remember the one time in my existence that they made the playoffs, and I'm not saying that they genuinely haven't made it since, but Paul Skeens was what, 12 the last time that they made the playoffs? I don't think he was watching every baseball game when he was 8 years old if they made it 4 years earlier. I don't even know when they made it before 2015, but I don't care either. It's been 10 years and they've made one wild card game. And it really doesn't make sense to me why the Pirates can't win when they haven't signed a single multi-year free agent in the past past 9 years. Every single free agent signing since 2016 has been a 1-year contract. There have been extensions like Ke'Bryan Hayes and Brian Reynolds, sure, but how do you give out a multi-year contract 0 times in the past 9 years? This year, their free agent acquisitions were Adam Frazier and Tommy Pham, and this is to supplement a pretty good core that consisted of one of the best rookie pitching seasons of all time. In the last start for Paul Skeens, we felt that in full effect when he got the loss after giving up just 1 run in a complete game because the Pirates can't hit. And you kind of knew that this was going to happen going into the season. Everyone did. The Pirates rotation is very, very solid, and they have some real prospects on their way up. They haven't scored more than 4 runs in the past 25 games because look at the lineup. Of course they're not scoring runs. And why is this lineup the lineup? Because the owner won't spend money. Juan Soto, Alex Bregman, and Kyle Tucker were all available this offseason. I know that Kyle Tucker was available for trade, but the Cubs traded for him, so clearly he was available, and I'm not saying that they have to go out and get Alex Bregman or Juan Soto, but you could go out and get someone. Pete Alonso was on the market for 13 million years, and no one wanted him. You could have gotten him. They could have brought back Rowdy Tellez. Actually, they couldn't have brought back Rowdy Tellez because Rowdy Tellez probably hates that organization's guts because they cut him 4 plate appearances away from a $200,000 bonus and then claimed, oh, well, it wasn't because of the bonus. Yes, it was because of the bonus. You guys, oh, I can't. Now, the biggest contract the Pirates have ever given out, a round of applause. It was a multi-year contract. That's rare in Pittsburgh. However, it was 11 years ago, which is crazy because money goes up every single year. So 11 years ago is wild. But it was a 3-year, $39 million contract given to Francisco Liriano. And this wasn't even really a free agent contract because he was already a Pirate the season before. However, he was in free agency, so other teams were competing, so I'll give them the benefit and say that it was a free agent signing because MLB says it is as well. Now, unfortunately, this is the smallest, biggest contract ever given out by any MLB team, because of course it is, it's $39 million. The Rays are only at $40 million, but they've also signed a few extensions. I don't care. The point is, it's the lowest. And why? Again, no one wants to go there. A, because the owner's not going to spend money, and B, the owner's not going to spend money. So it's kind of all on ownership. And if you look at the total payroll, it just gets even worse. There is a real core in Pittsburgh, like I alluded to earlier, and they could be a solid team if they had some real free agent pickups ever. However, there hasn't been, so the core doesn't matter. Paul Skeens, Jared Jones, Brian Reynolds, O'Neal Cruz, and Ke'Bryan Hayes kind of sucks now, but he was like a cornerstone core piece of this franchise. And that still is a good core. And with the farm system, there are names like Connor Griffin and Bubba Chandler who are both real elite prospects who are going to be good in Major League Baseball. It would be nice to add before those guys came up, but they're not even going to add after the guys come up, so it doesn't matter regardless. They're just going to develop into stars and then they're going to get traded for nothing, like the same is going to happen with Paul Skeens. However, if you look at the payroll and you just look year by year, you can kind of start to see how little the Pirates actually spend. They're the 4th smallest payroll in MLB this year. Last year, they were the 2nd smallest payroll in baseball. In 2023, the 3rd smallest. In 2022, the 3rd smallest. And in 2021, the 3rd smallest. I'm not going back any further because they're not going to wow me and I'm not going to see, oh, they were top 10 in payroll this year. Of course they weren't. They're the Pirates. The point I'm getting at is Bob Nutting is an absolute loser who doesn't care about winning and only cares about money. And like I said, the Pirates aren't going to be adding anything anytime soon. If anything, they're going to be subtracting when they eventually trade Paul Skeens because he's not going to extend in Pittsburgh because why would he stay there? It sucks. It's terrible. No one wants to be a Pirate. And I'm not just saying this to say it. Reporters are already saying that a Paul Skeens trade is looking more and more likely because the Pirates know that they aren't going to be able to keep him. And not to mention, if the Pirates were competitive, they'd be selling out almost every single night because their stadium is one of the best, if not the single best stadium in the entire league. I will give that to Bob Nutting, except I don't think he built the stadium. Let me check. No, the park was built 6 years before he took ownership, so I can't really give credit to Bob Nutting. It's a 25-year-old stadium. Of course, it's not falling apart yet, and he didn't even build it, so I'm not even giving him credit for that. He inherited probably the nicest stadium in baseball, and he can't even put a team that's competitive enough to have people show up. It's so crazy. They should just give the stadium to the Savannah Bananas because it's yellow and it kind of matches the color scheme of the bananas, and the Bananas would genuinely sell significantly more tickets than the Pittsburgh Pirates are going to. So just give PNC Park to the Savannah Bananas. Anyway, I can't talk about the Pirates anymore, so let's go talk about the Rockies. Actually, no, I'm gonna pivot really quickly to the Rays just because I don't think that their owner is the worst ever, because he's been dealt a really bad hand. However, Rob Manfred and a couple of other owners are literally petitioning that Stu Sternberg sells the Rays, so obviously there's a bit of a problem happening in Tampa, and a lot of that is due to the stadium deal that has not been able to materialize over the past couple of years. Tropicana Field is not a good stadium whatsoever, and it doesn't get people to show up because the stadium sucks. So the Rays have been trying to get a new stadium for the past few years here, but the owner just keeps not signing off on deals, and it keeps being a problem over and over, and it's so bad that Manfred wants him to sell the team, so I kind of have to mention that. However, I don't think that the Rays owner is that bad because he hires the right people to make sure that the team is somewhat competitive even when they're not spending money, so I do give them a lot of credit. They know when to trade players, who to trade for, and that's all because of the hirings that the owner has made, so I'm going to give him some credit for continuously putting out a competitive team even though they're not spending money. The Pirates don't spend money and don't have a competitive team, so they don't get any credit for that. Okay, the Rockies. Remember when this offseason the owner responded to an email from a literal fan asking about Juan Soto, and he said that he wasn't going to sign Soto simply because he didn't want to play for the West Coast? Yeah, buddy, I'm sure that's the reason why. Not because he would have cost money. He wouldn't have come to the Rockies for free, sure. And the Rockies are kind of confusing because I don't think a ton of the issues are the owner's fault, but then again, the owner is an idiot and the things that he says are the worst things ever, and they should probably take his phone and ability to speak to the media because every time he talks, it gets worse. They gave Chris Bryant a ridiculous amount of money, which is good for them for spending, but it was the wrong player, and it's just kind of crazy that he got $200 million when there was clear signs of regression in the previous seasons, but I don't know, at least they tried giving money to somebody. I'd much rather them try and give it to the wrong person than not try ever. The Nolan Arenado trade was also pathetic. However, that wasn't really the owner's fault, I don't think, and the GM that made that trade was fired right after that season, so the owner was kind of like, you screwed up this deal, I'm going to fire you. So I get that. But again, like I was saying with Bob Nutting, you would hope that the owners at least somewhat sign off on these mega deals before trading away a face of the franchise, but you never know with these owners. Although it has been rumored that Dick Monfort does spend like a lot of time with the GM and sometimes even overstepping too much in signings and trades and things like that. So he probably thinks he knows more than he does. Either way, Arenado could have been a Rocky for life. He was on a big contract. The owner didn't want to pay the contract, so he traded him away for peanuts, and unsurprisingly, those peanuts never turned into superstars. I would have never guessed. Also, Monfort is really an idiot because of the way that he talks. He slammed the Dodgers for spending money. He cried saying that no one else can compete with the Dodgers because they can't afford the same amount of contracts that the Dodgers can, while also saying that a salary floor would be unfair because he wants to scoot by without spending money. That's just what he wants to do. And the worst part about this is fans still show up to Coors Field. Again, like PNC, this park is really nice and it's really, really big. and fans still show up because of the atmosphere. In 2024, the last place Colorado Rockies had the 15th best ticket sales or attendance of any Major League Baseball team, and that was above the Baltimore Orioles, who were one of the best teams in baseball. In 2025, even though they are in the midst of the worst start to a season in professional baseball history, they are still ranked 19th in attendance, better than 11 other teams. Imagine what the attendance numbers would look like if they weren't a last place loser organization. They'd be incredible. Which again, that's just another excuse to spend. Even when you're doing bad, you're making all this extra money from fans showing up. Imagine how much more you would make if you were spending too. There would be even more fans and you would make even more money even if you're spending more money. It just doesn't make any sense to me. And this stupid owner, this dumb, idiot, stupid owner has the audacity to scream poor and whine about the Dodgers, who are spending money to benefit the players and the fan base, by the way, supporting their players and their fans. He has the audacity to complain and go, wow, I can't afford that, when the Dodgers and Yankees are paying their salaries with revenue sharing. We can't forget that revenue sharing is a thing. I'm sure that the Rockies and I'm sure that the Pirates get a big chunk of revenue sharing because their payrolls are so low. So they're getting money to spend money and make the league more balanced, except they're not spending money. So they're taking the Dodgers and Yankees money that they earned from spending money, putting it into their pockets and going, yippee, I just got a bonus for doing nothing. I just don't get it. Basically what I'm saying is there's a lot of owners, or not a lot of owners, but there's at least 2 to 3 to 4, maybe even 5 owners that just don't care about the sport of baseball at all and are only here to make money. And me personally, I think that's ridiculous because there are literally millions of people that care about your franchise that you are running. This isn't a stupid business. This is an entertainment business, and your responsibility is to put a product on the field that the millions of fans would like to experience. Instead, you're putting garbage slop on the field that no one wants to watch and then crying poor when you don't sell tickets because no one wants to watch your pathetic franchise run. I hate these bad owners. I think it's the worst part about Major League Baseball right now. There needs to be something done about Bob Nutting and Dick Monfort. It's just disgusting, and again, it affects so many people more than just yourself. Sports are things that bring communities together, and when they're going poorly like it is in Pittsburgh and Colorado, these communities just don't have that outlet anymore. And that's the responsibility of you as an owner. That's why I'm not gonna get on the Dodgers for spending money. I'm not gonna get on Steve Cohen and the Mets for spending money. That's perfect. I love that they spend as much as they can because you know what? Again, it makes Mets baseball good, it makes Mets fans happy, and it makes Dodgers baseball good, and it makes Dodger fans happy. The Dodgers shouldn't be worrying about Pirates fans. They should be worrying about their own fan base and satisfying them. And no one's forcing you to own the baseball team. They are multi-billion-dollar assets. If you can't afford supplementing your team with good talent, no one's forcing you to keep the team. Sell the Pirates, sell the Rockies, and make your $3 billion that it's gonna go for at auction, or just buy it now to some billionaire. These teams are such financial assets. If you sell them, you're gonna liquidate so much money. Just sell them and run a different business or go retire. You're billionaires. You don't need any more money. Either way, I'm sick of it. It's ridiculous. No one's forcing you to own a baseball team except your greedy pockets that need to continue to get millions and millions of dollars every single year, even though you will never spend the amount of money that you have. Sell the team and stop being losers and killing franchises and fan bases that deserve so much more.